Classic cars rebuild into modern supercar. On Monday at 6 a.m., there's no quiet left in a canyon just outside of LA. It looks like an icon from '69. The silhouette is unmistakable, the smell of gasoline mixed with history. But when you bury the throttle, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't hesitate. It screams 500 HP's worth of NAHP and stops with massive carbon ceramic brakes and handles with 2026 supercar surgical precision, not restoration, resurrection. Today's episode of True Blue Torque has you visiting the world of the $2 million restomod. We're going into detail about all of the masterminds that are taking these classic cars down to the bones and rebuilding them as modern-day weapons that finally match our memories. To appreciate the insanity of this revolution, we have to go back to when the classic car died and learn why it had to be resurrected. Section 1. The death of engagement. Let's be frank, we've all fantasized about owning our old childhood dream car. In this case, it would be a vintage car from when we were younger who saved up for, finally bought it and driven your car out for the first time on a Sunday. However, the real-life experience of these cars generally leaves much to be desired. For example, the steering has an excessive amount of play and feels as though there is a problem with your brakes, almost like to press down on a solid block of wood. What is more interesting is that when you stop at traffic lights, you have a very powerful supercharged vehicle, but an electronic hatchback leaves you at the stoplight without having to use any throttle. By the end of 2026, the automotive industry had reached a milestone. On one side, you can see the extremely performance-based automotive manufacturers providing a very capable product. However, that product is no longer fun to drive, numb. It is a very heavy vehicle that has many computer systems built in it, more than any computer facility in Silicon Valley. Performance exists, but the soul of the automobile is gone. The second area of the automotive world is classic cars. They are so full of soul that they seem to have outlasted their usefulness. However, what most consumers desire are vehicles with soul and performance that can be used on the same roads as modern technology. Thus, there is a gap between old world soul and new world technology. And this is where a new generation of engineers has provided a product line, an automotive product line that has transformed the automotive industry. These new breed of engineers have expressed their desire not to create new cars that feel like gadgets. From the old vehicles they wanted to create, they wanted to have something that worked like a miracle. Section 2. The Singer Effect. Rob Dickinson is the man whose story illustrates how a 50-year-old car can become a million-dollar piece of art. In the early 2000s, Rob Dickinson was not a car designer. He was the frontman for British rock band The Catherine Wheel. However, he had one obsession: driving his 1969 orange Porsche 911 around the hills of Hollywood. People would not only stare at the car, but would also try to find out where they could buy an exact copy of it. The problem was, Rob's car was a Frankenstein of parts, a classic body, and a tweaked-out racing engine, allowing him to keep up with modern-day traffic. In 2009, Rob took a gamble and started Singer Vehicle Design with the mission of the Porsche 911 reimagined. He specialized in rebuilding classic Porsche cars. By taking the 911 6-year-old history, pulling out all the best elements and putting them into one vehicle, he created a new vehicle. His example started with a Porsche 964, the last generation of air-cooled 911s, and stripped it down to the raw frame. He used military-grade carbon fiber to replace all the body panels. The engines were sent to legendary builders such as Ed Pink or Williams Engineering for polishing and modification, and for turning them into screamingly peppy engines that had been built to rev at an unbelievable 9,000 RPM. When the first Singer debuted on the automotive landscape, it caused a major shift within the industry. All of a sudden, people were comparing a restored car to a Pagani or a Koenigsegg for the first time. It featured a level of detail that was reminiscent of fine jewelry. The engine compartments had quilted leather flaps, and all the metal parts were nickel-plated, and the tachometers were made to look like fine watches. But that was only one part of the story. The other part of the story was the way that the Singer felt whilst driving. Dickinson submitted many different designs into various automakers throughout his career to find something that had the tangible, a mechanical click of a car that had been built during the 1960s with the reliability of a car that would be produced in the year 2026. Out of nowhere, the used Porsche market had changed from being a traditional market for automotive enthusiasts into a market for ultra-wealthy car collectors who had outgrown their Ferrari collections. Not only did Singer manage to create an incredible automobile, they created a blueprint to build and develop a whole new genre of automobiles. This was picked up by other car manufacturers and continues to grow around the world as we speak. Section 3. The Escalation beyond the 911. The concept of the $1 million restomod was at first believed to be primarily a Porsche thing. However, in the mid-2020s, the concept quickly spread to other manufacturers. The new mentality went like this. If you have heritage, the rest of the automobile engineering community will produce the supercar performance. Boreham Motorworks not only desired to restore the Ford Escort Mach 1, but also to build what they refer to as a continue mod. In fact, in building this new version, Boreham did not utilize a wrecked-out version of an existing Escort. Rather, Boreham is an official continuity licensee of Ford, and as such, has access to blueprints of the original vehicle and laser scans equivalent to the 2026 manufacturing specifications in order to produce entirely new cars. That being said, expect a lightweight 800 kilograms version of the classic Ford Escort, complete with a full carbon fiber hood, trunk, and a 2.1L engine that will continue to scream to a 10,000 revolutions per minute's redline with rally car performance characteristics and costing close to $400,000. While the Escort is more suited for rallying, the Cyan Racing Volvo P1800 is much more precise. The team at Cyan Racing took the same winning race DNA from their success in World Touring Cars and transferred it to a 1960s Volvo. The original body was completely dismantled, and the chassis was built out of high-strength steel and carbon fiber, and then fitted with a 420 horsepower turbocharged motor from their championship-winning race car. To put that into context, this car weighs less than a Miata but produces more power than a modern Porsche 911 Carrera. On top of that, it has no ABS, no traction control, and no power steering. It is the epitome of peak analog, driving at an incredible price of $700,000. From British rally drivers to Swedish GTs, the progression has been extraordinary. The marketplace demonstrated that people were willing to pay for more than just nostalgia. They wanted to obtain true, unadulterated mechanical connectivity that today's mass-market OEMs cannot afford to manufacture because of regulatory restrictions. Section 4. The $2 million alchemy. How does one modify an aged chassis to accept a significantly greater amount of torque and horsepower? Through restoration? No, that is merely the beginning of what actually will occur to your chassis in its rebirth extreme mechanical alchemy. The rebirth begins as soon as the donor car is stripped down to the bare monocoque chassis. That shell will cease to exist within 48 hours after being stripped down. All metal components, except for some parts that can be reused, are then forwarded to a 3D laser scanning company that will produce a high-resolution digital twin of the shell. This digital twin will be accurate to less than a millimeter. It isn't until 2026, however, when companies like Singer and Red Bull Advanced Technologies, the engineering team of the Formula One team, will begin to utilize finite element analysis, FEA, to determine where the old steel chassis is weak and how they can fix those areas. To accomplish this, Singer will create 13 custom carbon fiber struts that will be bonded to the chassis at various locations. The end result of the above procedures is that the torsional rigidity of the chassis will be increased by 175%. Therefore, you will no longer be driving an old vintage vehicle. You will be driving a carbon fiber exoskeleton coated in a vintage skin. Finally, what lies under the skin of this beast is the engine. The Boreham 10K engine is a 2.1 Li4 engine that weighs 85 kilograms. However, due to current materials used in today's automotive engine components, that is to say, titanium connecting rods, aerospace-grade aluminum piston rings, etc., the 10K will rev to 10,000 revolutions per minute. The modern restomod comes about by merging old-world craftsmanship with new-world technology using computer-aided design, CAD. Modern restomods utilize 3D-printed molds for creating high-quality interior switches and electrical connectors that feel like expensive jewelry. They also utilize electric control units, ECUs, and advanced cooling systems so that when you are sitting in a traffic jam, the car does not overheat, unlike its original counterpart. This is the definition of pushing the envelope on engineering. The goal of this form of engineering is not to achieve fast but perfect. Section 5. The final boss of the combustion era. In the year 2026, the car market is vastly different compared to just 10 years ago, and the scene is now filled with quiet, high-efficiency EVs and SUVs defined by software rather than mechanical means. The expansion of the restomod business is a perfect example of this radical shift occurring within the industry. These types of vehicles, for example the Singer, the Boreham, and the Cyan, are no longer mere toys for those who can afford them. These cars are time capsules of the final boss of internal combustion engines. You might think that these $2 million cars will one day sit in museums because of emissions restrictions. However, you would be wrong. The restomod industry is leading the way into the new era of e-fuels. Car manufacturers like Porsche and HIF Global are already working towards producing synthetic, environmentally friendly fuel that will keep these high-rev engines performing at their best, all without causing any harm to the environment. We now live in an era of greatest hits when it comes to automotive design. Now we can enjoy both the beauty of the 1960s and the safety of the 2020s. The restomod movement shows us that old is not the same as outdated. It signifies a unique style. It embodies character and provides an emotional connection. As long as winding roads exist, regardless of how much gas there is, the childhood memory of childhood will remain in existence. However, the memories will continue getting faster over time. If you had an unlimited budget, $1 million to create any type of classic car, what kind of vehicles would you have? Comment below and let us know. Thanks for reading. This has been True Blue Torque. See you soon.